Freaking yeah, buddy. Yeah, no. So you're saying the social emotional stuff is now coming in as of like week two?
Yeah, so it's interesting, like we mentioned in our last recording, how big focus in the school counseling realm that week was first week, and even like the lead up to school is always a academic. It's always just a bunch of academics doing schedules, making sure people are on track, meetings with families about plans, all that jazz. But I'm finding now that we're getting through and we're getting close to the end of the ad drop period, people have been able to move stuff around, and then they're still coming with problems. There could be, who knows, a list of types of problems that they could be sharing. But as you might recall, you start recognizing patterns.
Okay.
And kids will we're seeing some like attendance things already.
Oh, gee.
And yeah, man, it's pretty wild.
A-
Um,
After like a week already?
yeah, and it's like not like because you can't really say attendance problems with just a week, right? I mean, the state requires 10 days, I believe. I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But usually like 10 days before you report out. But noticing that like it is that the high school experience is now a real thing for some of these kids, and it's just overwhelming. And
I
I think one of the big things for me that it highlights is just the diversity in pathways for high school now that we're fortunate to have in this 21st century, as opposed to when we were back in high school. Like there wasn't, for me at least, there wasn't anything else really. You had high school. You might have had the ability for your town or a nearby city having a night school of some sorts, but like in general, it's just like you do it or you drop out. Now there's like a litany of opportunity to pursue and see what can be done.
yeah. Now are you seeing that more like with your freshman, sophomore, juniors, or just kind of like the whole gamut?
Um, being the beginning freshman, I
Yeah.
see it. That's when it's like you don't know them too well, so you really want to play it by ear, hear it out, but also recognize like when you give solutions to the problems and that doesn't solve the problem, it's like something else is going on here. There's a variable missing in this equation, and it's not going to ever balance out till we get that.
Yeah. I've called parents who I talk to who have freshman students, and I try to tell them like freshman year actually isn't as bad. I feel like sophomore year is when like it's rough because in my mind I almost feel like freshman, senior, they get a lot of eyes on you. Junior, you get a lot of eyes on you. I feel like that sophomore year is when like you kind of like left with that sandwich year. It's like, yeah, you got to kind of figure it out. And it's not like on purpose. It's just kind of like it's that like forgotten year because like I said, you're not a freshman, so all eyes aren't on you. You're not a senior, so all eyes aren't on you. It's not your junior year, which I guess typically known to be that like toughest year. So that's sophomore year. I think, in my opinion, I always found to be like the toughest year.
Totally. Yeah, man. And I mean, I remember my English teacher, I believe, in my sophomore year of high school, first day of class, wrote the word sophomore on the board. And it's like sopho more. It's like sopho, like philosophy. And that's wise. And you have more, like moronic,
Yeah.
fool. It is the wise fool. And I always thought that was a fun little word play to share with sophomores the first day of class.
hmm
Like, so you think you know everything because you're not a freshman anymore, but you're foolish to think you know anything because there's
Yeah.
so much more to learn. I was like, damn, that's a really good use of whoever came up with that. They were really smart. They should have stuck with education, you know?
Well, so I'd love to kind of hear, apart from that, how was week two? How was like the field, the energy? Because I can definitely share how I feel it's going in our school for week two. So I'd love to know how's the energy, how's it feel? Um, how is everyone acclimating?
Um, Pretty well. I mentioned before we hit record that I finally am caught up on emails, which is like the bane of my existence. Just, you get into a interactive job and you're stuck behind a computer screen answering endless emails that always have responses to them. But I see the light now. I got up into like being to today, and I'm seeing people are starting to settle in. I see one of the things that is pretty interesting. We kind of um, predicted was kids are not really throwing their arms up about cell phone policy or
Mm,
bringing it up. It hasn't become a full reality as we're transitioning into it in the next, like probably within first to second semester, we'll be like fully instating it. but it's not like a big like fight, like wanting to send letters, like, no like advocacy against the cell phone policy. It seems like it's like this is gonna suck. I'm just gonna let it happen though. It's kind of like that cheesy song comes on the radio when you're with your bro and you're like, dude, this song sucks. Yeah, yeah, change it if you want. Yeah, you too, man. And you just listen to it. Yeah, yeah, it's a really stupid song, huh? It's like you actually both like it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's good. But in general, yeah, settling in, dude. It's getting to be kind of a quick dive into just status quo. We're getting into it. Athletics are ramping up. We're starting to have some athletic events going after school. People are getting involved in the community events. We're having I believe it'd be a week from about now, we're having our clubs fair where they have like during lunches, all the different activities, which is exciting for even myself. I love just walking by to remind myself of what we have because like we talk to so many kids and it's like you don't remember it's hard to retain all the resources and opportunities, and one of the best things is to be around like-minded people. So clubs are an unbelievable way to get involved, unbelievable way to make great connections and to challenge yourself to grow with peers that are like-minded.
Yeah, no, I agree with that fully. Tomorrow we're actually bringing like we have a thing where we kind of like it's almost like a homeroom that we do. So like this year, like my homeroom is like freshmen, and so like we're bringing them to the club fair tomorrow. And I kind of mentioned that same too. Like I wasn't really into clubs when I was in high school, but I think more so in college. Like I understood the need for them. And I feel like everything soared once I started doing that because, like you said, you get around those like-minded people. And I think all of us, in a sense, like we need that group. I think sometimes we think we don't, like we want to be individual. But when you have that group, like there's something to be said about it. And a lot of those people who are like in those clubs with me, like I still connect with them. I still chat with them. Granted, like that was when I was still like on my sports management track. So like they kind of went into a different career, but still it's like I'm still connected with those people. And even like going back to group and stuff, like I think we mentioned before, like that group counseling class we took, most people who I was in that my cohort or whatever, like I still chat with them. So I see the point of clubs and those group work and that community building of how like important it is.
Yeah, man. And I think we talked about it in one of our first recordings, but that sense of purpose
Hmm.
and finding a purpose in the community, in the surroundings, because right now it can be very hard in a world of battling individualisms to be the same. It means a lot to find people that are a bit similarly different as you are. Like they're not all trying to be what you see on your phone, but they're interested in international foods, or they're really passionate about doing like social studies or like history, or they like robotics, or cooking or whatever it is. That's like a unique thing that is not going to be like a big social media thing, but it's significant and it helps you engage. It shows that you're not alone in those struggles or interests or passions.
Yeah.
And I've noticed in my adult age, like I wasn't necessarily big into clubs, but I was really into sports. I did three sports, 4 years of high school, and really appreciated the sense of community, camaraderie, and kind of individual with group growth. I thought that was beautiful. And then in college, I did a little bit. I did some rugby as a club, but it's the same thing. Like I really enjoyed that collaboration. I now find like I would love to like I have these passions. I want to meet people like mine. It's like how do I start a club? Like I want to like look for people and find it. And I think having those skills of like being like in a high school and having like a smaller ecosystem to play around, like how do I market this club? How do I find people that like it? And doing that will help when you get older,
Yeah.
keeping those connections and creating them as your interests expand.
Huge. And like I said, I think building those skills now while you are in high school, because when high school ends, obviously like you lose a lot of people. You're not grouped anymore. Like you go through like 12 years of like you're grouped here, you're grouped here, you're grouped there. Then it's like, all right, you got to find your own group. And that can be like challenging onto itself. It's I think it's easier said than done, like building those groups. Like even for me, like and for the most part, like I'm an extrovert. I can like talk to anyone and everyone. It wasn't easy to like just like join a club because it's awkward. That I think depending on who you are, like sometimes that can be quiet, which is like it sounds kind of crazy, but when I first meet someone, then it's like, all right, like let's roll with it. And so I can only imagine if you don't even have that like personality, like building those friendships, building those groups. I think this is kind of where you work on it. And it's almost like that fear of like, oh, like, does anyone else want to do this? Like, I'm sure out of that school, like our school, we have like almost like 3,500 students. I'm sure someone in that school like has a similar passion to you and just wants to try it out and just talk and make friends.
100%, man. 100%. And you mentioned some topics to connect on a couple other issues if I could kind of go off on it. That finding your role in a group is a very unique thing. And I can only really speak from like a perspective of a dude, like a male. I have only ever been, like kind of like going into groups and like being a male going into groups, it can be challenging sometimes. And like having experience in high schools, I think of like you mentioned, like sometimes you can be quiet at the start, but like there is this, like for me at least in the back of my head, I don't want to dominate. I don't want to take over
Mhm.
this group. I don't want to be the center of it and be like, oh, here he comes leading it. And literally, dude,
Yeah, no, I get
I
it.
suppress my voice. And this isn't unique to just like me. I talk to teachers and they say like, I wish I could have like I have classes with like balanced out classes, and I don't have any of the males wanting to speak up. They just sit in silence. And I look at their notes, I look at their paper, and it's fine. It's not perfect. It's not terrible. It's acceptable. And it's something that should be shared. But yet it's a confidence thing. It's a kind of a concern, like all eyes are on me. It's a social thing that we're seeing a big pivot to.
Mm,
Um, and this impacts so many things that we've kind of focused on, even with like certain with clients. Like we look at like public speaking abilities, like the confidence, like self-confidence and being who, like being yourself, finding purpose within who you are. All these things can relate to like walking into a group and finding your place in it. And without having the sense of confidence to be like, okay, I'm going to go in this group. I'm going to feel it out, and then I'm going to share where I'm at. If you're not having that confidence, you can go into that group and be like, maybe I shouldn't talk. Maybe I should just sit here in silence. I think I'm just going to be quiet today. And
mm.
then it's going to be, I always say avoidance is the fuel to anxiety. You avoided talking in that. Next time you go, you think it's going to be easier? It's going to be weird. Like no one heard you speak. And now you're just going to be like, well, let me speak. And then you're all in your head. It really can mess with kind of your perspective.
Yeah, I have a tough time doing that in class where like because of me, I feel like I'd be yakking it up nonstop, but I also am like, all right, maybe I should take a step back. Then I get in that awkward phase of like, but no one else is talking. Like, should I like interject? And I do find myself doing similar things where like I want others to share, and like I'm never trying to suppress other opinions because I like engaging with people. So I find myself doing that more so in class and stuff. And in meetings, like I try to always like have people share, and I always try to think about that myself. Like, hey, like, am I talking too much in this meeting? Like, am I allowing people to share? Because I'm honestly just so curious to hear like other people's opinions, and so I try to get people to engage. I almost feel like I'm better off when it's one-on-one, maybe just because it's not like a big group. And I definitely try to listen more if I can and just hear like, hey, like, tell me your thoughts. But then on the other side of it, as you know, like some people aren't always willing to share. So like my not my crush, but what I try to do is almost maybe overshare. So hopefully it makes them more comfortable. So is that like balance of like, all right, am I doing too much? Or is this hopefully giving an opening for them to share also?
Right. And it gets tough because you almost want to create a formula or an equation. It's like, okay, when I meet someone, I'm going to overshare two small things. And then I'm going to take a step back and ask questions connecting to them. So now they're comfortable with it. And then we're going to see what it's like. No, like you have to be genuine. You can't plan this out in advance. And I think sometimes I'll even get into counseling skills, like create rapport, comfort, and then motivate through minimal encouragers, just like, uh-huh, yeah, I hear you. Cool.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then like a big thing I really enjoy doing in groups, especially when I feel like it's a bit quiet, is positive reinforcement, like compliments. Just giving like, that's a great idea. I didn't even think about it. I think we should focus a bit more on that. Anyone else able to carry on, like pick up on that? Like anyone else have a thought about that? You'd be surprised how much that person's gonna be like, yeah, like okay, like I have another thought. I have, like are willing to contribute. I think I empathize, like how do I feel when I'm in a group? Well, if somebody said I said something awesome, I'm gonna feel a lot better. I'm gonna want to be a part of the group. If someone's just like, uh-huh, anyway, I'm gonna be like, all right, there's the door. I'm out. See you later. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm gonna hang
Hmm.
out in there on my phone for a bit, And guess what? That's what kids are doing,
Yeah.
you know?
And I don't know if like they learned that skill eventually, because like I said, that was not always the case. I think as you go in your career, and that's why I said I enjoy class more now because I am that much more curious and I do want to learn from other people. And I don't know when that happened, but I do just like engaging with people. I don't think that was always the case for me. So it's almost like trying to find how can we pull that out of students now? So it's almost like having a teacher, like you said, like give that positive reinforcement and like encourage, like, hey, like we want to hear your thoughts. And like sometimes I remember like previous students would be like, yeah, I don't like getting called on, and I would always be like, I kind of hope that you do, because like I want you to start learning that skill of sharing in public. Like, because like you said earlier, if you keep avoiding it, and if you keep not doing it, things are going to get worse. It's not going to get easier. I'm big on um, exposing people to new and different things that are hard things. And it's like you said, it's if you can't do something, or in your mind you think you can't, and then when you do it, you're gonna just grow so much. So yeah, you're scared of being called on, but once you do it, oh, that's it. That's it.
100%, dude. 100%. Two things on that. I found that for me, life experience helped me get the confidence to engage with education. And what I mean by that is I can reflect high school, I was super introverted, uncomfortable talking, did not want any attention. I don't think I actively raised my hands in class
Mm,
ever in high school, like ever. Don't remember any times where I would have raised my hand in a class unless it was like a need. And like I'm talking even like going to the bathroom. I wasn't trying to bring any attention. I'm just like, I'm here. I'm silent. Leave me alone. I'll hand in my work. I get C's and B's. You know who I am. Leave me
mm,
alone. Call me by my name. Just leave it as it is. And then I finished high school and I went to college. And in college, I started getting some comfort. But specifically, I remember the social studies because I was a social study history major. There's two social studies classes, one of which there was a teaching assistant in that did these small groups once a week. And I would go to them and she would ask for my opinion. And the first time, dude, I sweat through my shirt, my hoodie, everything. Dude, I was just soaked in. I was so embarrassed that I was called on. And then I had to say something, but she complimented it and said it was good. And I was
mm,
blown away. So then, like, I recognized more often I wanted to go. I would contribute. I would take a lead. I remember there was this trial that we had, and I took a lead as one of the main defense. And
yeah.
that's so weird. I would never do that. And yet there I was. I felt empowered by it. It was fascinating. And then after that, I started teaching. And that's when I found like, okay, now I see purpose in what I'm learning. I can fully engage with it. And when I went into, as you know, with the master's program, it was far more of a I don't know if informal is the right word, but a welcoming environment to shared opinions. And I would be more engaged. I would listen and I would see a practical use to it in the world. I wouldn't care about what do they think of me. No, it was like I need to know this. I'm going to ask this. That's a great idea. Let's add to that. Let's build from this and go from there. And so I think there's something to be said about that shared experience. And the life experience that we get and how that can help build confidence, even if it is not a success,
Yeah.
right? First year of teaching, I did it. I didn't leave. Success, unique word to say. It's all on what I set the benchmark at, but like there was so much room for improvement. That being said, it opened the door for my confidence to be able to stand in front of a class, talk about a subject, create an activity, grade, like all these things of pedagogy that I never really contemplated. I was thrown into the fire and it helped me develop it so fast.
Yeah. No, that's big. So we'd love to pivot a little bit and just hear like something you said a while back was about how procrastination can kill a lot of people. So I've been having little conversations about students kind of starting their common app, and it's like just say, hey, have you started? No, not yet. I haven't started. Have you done anything on it? No, not yet. It's happening. Would love to know how are you seeing is doing anything for next year yet, or are you still in that point where it's like, no, not yet, not yet, and we're kind of avoiding it?
For, are we talking specifically like college process?
Yeah, college, just future planning in general. College next year, working. I'd love to know if you've had any conversations with any students yet, or is it more on the avoidance phase right now?
I would say that it's a diverse selection. So right now, as I said, the number one focus of meetings, the number one thing that filled my schedule up until this point has been schedules. That's the main purpose. So in that, I have double, triple booked periods. So meeting three students in 45 minutes. I can get that. I do pretty well with like I normally will do rapport building. So I ask what they're into, what's a highlight of their summer, like that. Mainly like how is summer? What's the number one thing that happened? What are you looking forward to? Like those are three. Just ask anyone that you don't know, what are you looking forward to? And it's something that anyone can genuinely answer, or they're just like like they're engaged
Yeah,
now. You ask them a very like, oh wow. If they don't know, they're like, well, what are you? I need to figure this out, and they'll engage in it. I have what I do with academics though. When they say set classes, I say, what's the purpose of this change?
mm,
And if they say, well, if it comes up with any academics, so I had a student today mention like they wanted to. Big thing right now is dropping world languages, which I think we talked, but I am a huge advocate for world languages. Or I try to be. I think it's an extremely important thing. I think it helps even if you don't master a language, it teaches you how to kind of like associate concepts. It can help with like all different types of fields, and it helps humble you.
yeah,
I think there's just so much benefit that you can get from world languages. I encourage every student to do it if it fits in their schedule. But I have kids. I had one kid come by, two kids, one today that said they needed to drop a world language. I asked why. They had this whole plan. They're like, well, I want to go to one of the CTE programs. And I know that that takes up a lot of periods. I'm planning on applying to it next year, but I still have a couple of my core requirements I haven't done. I talked to my family, they weren't pleased, but once I shared that I want to go on this pathway, they said that they'd be willing to see it through. And
nice.
that's well thought out. I
Mm,
love it. We started talking like, oh, what do you want to do after? Are you planning to go to school for? Or you wanted to get an internship? And then that's a career talk. World language, another like kind of avoidance though would be a student coming in saying that they couldn't do it, that they were overwhelmed by it. I ask, what are our plans? Oh, well, I'm planning on going to a 4 year, planning on doing something in like higher ed. I'm like, okay, and like, what's the biggest concern in his presentations? Okay, well, guess what? That sounds a bit avoidant.
mm,
It sounds like you're not wanting to do that. You want to do it next year, but not this year. And you want to put another class in that's challenging as well. It sounds like we're just not comfortable. What would happen if we just push through? What would happen if we just try it a little bit more? See what happens, discuss. And they were just like, I guess I get better at it. Yeah. And so like seeing that type of avoidance and like connecting it to a future goal is super powerful. It's interesting though because you don't get a lot of students right now reaching out that are like extremely procrastinative towards their schools,
yeah,
towards their futures, towards that. Right now, those students that aren't really wanting to think about it, they are procrastinating checking in with me.
yeah.
It goes
Hmm.
that deep, and I have to hunt them down and find them and be like,
No,
yo, what are we doing? Hey, I see you. We're talking later.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think for me, so like today, I just went in and I spoke with a few seniors, and like a few of them like are on it, and I think a few of them just want to get started. I mentioned that I think this time now for people who graduated is when things kind of get scary. Or like if there's a student who like didn't make a plan and now like you're out of school and now it's like, oh crap, for the last 12 years I've been going to school, I had this plan, but now things have shifted. And it's hard because you you can only say that so much to a student, but until they go through it, it's like that's when it really hits. Because like even now, like I have students reaching out to me who like I was trying to connect with last year, and I was trying to I push. They were like, no, wait, oh, wait. Now it's like, oh crap, what am I doing now? Because like different people are doing different things. Some people are working, some went to school, but some just like didn't really have that plan. And like I said, it's hard to. It's not really like a fear thing. It's hard to kind of tell someone that while they're still in school because they really only learn that post school if they didn't kind of do that work. So that's
Yep.
like the balance that I'm trying to figure out. Like, hey, look, this isn't a scary tactic. This is just literally me trying to tell you, hey, use all the resources while you have them, because once they're gone, like it's hard. And even now, like people who are contacting me, yeah, I'm gonna try to help them, but also my first priority are my students right now. And but I think I've I think building that network though still for the people who maybe didn't have that plan and just like giving them a resource is still important, which obviously I think that's why we kind of have this company and trying to trying to build those relationships and saying, hey, look, all right, maybe you didn't do it while you're in high school. Like, what can we do now? Because there are still options out there, but obviously it's a lot harder when you don't have that support system, essentially.
That's it, man. That's it. And that's where the role of having people like us in schools, as well as having opportunities outside of schools to provide that trusted support system, that kind of adult role model that's not familial is so powerful,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to encourage these things and push us into those discomforts. A family can't do that. They can try, but you know, kids can get pissed at their parents. It
Mhm.
gets really weird when you get pissed at a person that's working. Really awkward. So like they usually don't, and they'll be open-minded to it, you know?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I always tell my students like, hey, like I'm gonna push you, and it's not gonna be always fun, but my goal is for you to get the best out of this whole situation. And if at the end of the day, like you walk out and you did hard things, you put yourself out of your comfort zone and you survived, then like great. That to me is that's all I want. As long as you're pushing yourself and you're doing things that you thought you couldn't, but you come out outside of that, then it's a win. That's
That's
perfect.
it, man.
Yeah. So kind of all I got today, all this
Same.
week. I think, like I said, we're on week 2. We got another week next week. Excited to see what comes. I feel like next week's gonna be difficult. Next week is like a full week. It's all like this wasn't a fake week, but yeah, we still have Monday off. But I think next week, the first full week, I'm excited to see how that goes. Excited to see like how students are. I will say, at least for me, like I feel the energy is up. I feel, man, I like I walked past the study hall like recently and like I saw people talking. I've heard like the lunchroom is louder than it's ever been in years because people are engaging. So I'm loving it. I had like one little tiff today in homeroom with a student, but we'll know we'll work that out. It'll be fun. But overall, like I'm loving the energy right now that I'm feeling. I'm feeling it from the teachers, I'm feeling it from the students. And I can say at least for me and my institution, like the energy is high, the vibes are good, and I feel that. I can definitely sense it, and I can sense it from the teachers also. So I
That's
think it's going
awesome.
to be a great year ahead.
I do too, man. I'm hopeful. This is a
Yeah,
big one.
it'll be good. Well, we'll see y'all next week.